Mental health while you're quarantined. I am here with a good friend of mine, Lisa Schuman. She is a licensed clinical social worker, and she and I both serve the reproductive community. We are used to dealing with people in crisis. COVID-19 has added a layer of crisis and isolation at an unprecedented level that any of us have ever faced. And Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. This is such a critical conversation at a really tricky time in history.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. It's so true. Everyone is really, really feeling at their wits' end. And of course, people who've gone through fertility treatment or other difficulties in their life have this on top of everything else. But everybody is really feeling stressed. And I think, the most important thing for me to just start with is that regardless of what you're feeling, it's not wrong. Lots of people are saying, well, my friend is doing fine, and look at the people outside. They seem to be enjoying it, and I'm going stir crazy, or I'm so stressed, and why is that? Or I can't sleep. Even my sleep medication's not working, and it should be better. Self-criticism is the worst. So above all else, accept that your journey is your journey, and that you're feeling however you feel. It's okay, no matter how you feel.
Remember that movie, The Kids Are All Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I keep saying that to all my friends who have kids and they're worried about under teaching and under parenting right now and all that. I keep saying the kids are all right.
Yeah.
The kids are gonna be okay.
Yes, they will be okay. In fact, we're finding, I've seen some preliminary research that some of the younger kids are actually, who don't really understand a lot of this yet, they're actually enjoying spending more time with their parents.
Oh,
they like that. That's not as hard. It's the teens, I'm a little bit more worried about, because the teens are just by nature, developmentally, they need to be social. And it's very hard for them to be social under these circumstances. They go on social media, but it's not quite the same, and they're not really connected to their friends or to their schools. And so it can be really hard, especially hard for them. And of course, teens and preteens are more prone to depression and anxiety and all of those things. So those kids probably are going to struggle a little bit more.
How do parents help them in that scenario? Because I think that's also a demographic where you hear from a lot of parents, oh, my preteen, my teen, they're moody already. And then if you add this kind of social isolation to it, how should parents support their teens during this time while also trying to cope with their own anxiety? What do you recommend?
Yes, and the online learning, and then having to struggle between being an at-home teacher and also holding down a full-time job is really challenging. It's exhausting. And I hope that more of the schools will get on board and be, more helpful. Some are and some aren't. But if the parents can set up a schedule for the kids, I think that's ideal. Try to, and for all of us too, to stay on a schedule is really, really helpful.
All right, so schedule is really meaningful. Are there any signs of extra anxiety or depression that parents should be aware of when it comes to their teen or themselves even, where it's time to call their pediatrician or call their doctor to say, hey, is there something, biochemical going on because we're not getting enough sunlight, or because they're not sleeping well and their melatonin is off, which then makes the cortisol higher? Is there anything that people should be more on the lookout for than normal?
Well, certainly, I'm preaching to the choir here. I know it's really important to be able to have a therapist or someone you can speak with, have a professional you can speak with. But certainly if the child is feeling hopeless or helpless, or seems to be spending even more time in their room than they would normally, it's really good to try to reach out to them and to try to find out what's going on. And if you have a conflicted relationship with your teen already, then it really is helpful to bring in a professional to try and maybe have some family therapy around that. And, we do all kinds of therapy with Zoom these days, so it's a really useful tool. We can, even in social isolation, have really productive therapy conversations.
That's incredible. So is there a great way that you recommend people should even find therapists right now? Is there a trusted source? I used to go into Psychology Today because I love the profiles that they do, to try to find someone, and they do include reproductive therapists as well in our space for those that are dealing with infertility. Is there a trusted source that you like to send people, or should they use one of the apps that are out there to try to find someone?
Yeah, I think that Psychology Today is a great source. If someone has a lot of experience, that's better than less experience. And also for people in the fertility space, I think going to the American Society for Reproductive Medicine is really important, because you want people who are well skilled in this area and really know what they're doing. You don't want to have to spend all your time explaining to your therapist what's happening to you.
Right.
So,
right.
yes.
Now, Lisa, you also work with a clinic itself, and you've already, you've seen people for years, and in some cases there are reasons that they have treatment delays or even treatment cancellations. So you've dealt with a clientele who has stops and starts already, but we're seeing stops and pauses at an unprecedented level because of what's going on. How are you, having those conversations with people? What are some of the coping strategies to deal with the grief? I mean, I read an article of someone who said, my fourth and final IVF was just canceled.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say, I'm lucky enough to work with some fantastic doctors, and the doctors of Reproductive Medicine Associates of Connecticut are very, very sensitive and have a tremendous level of empathy for their patients. And so even though I reach out to them and tell them I'm happy to provide some really helpful information about how to talk to patients, they are really skilled just on their own. And so, I think it's really nice for the patients. If your doctor is sensitive, that goes a long way. Being able to have those empathic skills is so key during this time, because there's some things that they have control over and other things they have no control over. And, yeah.
That's absolutely the case. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Can you distinguish a difference between a coping mechanism and self-care? So I feel like people's self-care has been very disrupted. They can't go to the gym. They might be turning to more alcohol than normal. They might not be doing all this sort of at-home self-care. So what's the difference between a coping strategy and healthy self-care? Is there a difference?
So I think we can kind of look at ways to make yourself feel better or put yourself in a better emotional state in kind of two ways. And so one is, how can we decrease our depressive or anxiety symptoms, and how can we raise the joy? And that's hard to do when we're not feeling well, but there are things that we can do to, make ourselves feel better, whether it's a little exercise or going outside. There are things that we can do to decrease our stress, like limiting TV. I know people feel completely captivated by everything that's going on in the news, but if you watch more than a half an hour of what's happening, it's really not necessary, and it's just going to raise your stress levels. Right? Okay. If you don't spend time with your family a constructive way, and you don't have a schedule, you're going to raise your stress levels. If you don't have coping mechanisms like stress reduction techniques, and I have lots of stress reduction techniques on my YouTube channel, on my website. If you don't use meditation or yoga or other stress reduction techniques, that's going to make you upset. And then the second piece really has to do with control. And, that's something that's so hard here. Everyone is feeling out of control. Right. And so what can we do to make ourselves feel better? Well, if our body's feeling out of control, not only is it bad for us emotionally, but it's not great for our health, right? Our bodies have a natural fight or flight response where we're expected to have a reaction to a trigger that happens to us. But now we're having continual reactions to triggers ongoing, right? First, we have to leave our offices, and then we're afraid for our jobs, and then our office gets closed, and then we have to stay home in social isolation, and then we can't hug our loved ones, as we were talking about before. And so
that's the hardest part. I can't hug everybody. I wanted to hug my lawn guy today. Just hug. I mean, my kid is so tired of me like tackling him for hugs. I'm like doing the behind the back, hugs with him, because he's like, no more hugs.
No more. I've had it, right. Yeah. So we want to be able to find places where we do have some control in our lives to kind of help balance ourselves a little bit. So even though people feel stressed, I really think it's a great idea to try, and you can do this with kids too. There's so many nice ways to find hobbies. All the schools are offering, or almost all of them are offering, online classes. There's zoo tours and tours of museums online. There's all sorts of projects you can come up with yourself, even if you just want to reorganize your living room. It really can help you feel stabilized if you put your energy into something and then you see a benefit for it. It really can help when everything else in your life is so out of control.
I love that. I'm thinking about 2 closets that need a little bit of attention right now.
But only if it's fun, Alice.
Which would be a great I like organizing, so that does sound fun. And like maybe now's the time for a little premature spring cleaning or something to go ahead and that feeling of control again, or like clearing out. I love that. And it is true. There are so many great online museum tours and so forth. And if we make them fun and not more school, because I think a lot of people are kind of frustrated with that. Like, I don't want to do so much school at home, because school for so many kids, not mine because he homeschools, but for so many students who are used to going somewhere for school and coming home for respite, it's the same thing that workers are facing. I used to get to go out of the house and then come home for my respite. And now it's all jumbled up into one environment. And so I think even changing clothes, is such a big deal. It's like, okay, now I'm in my work attire. I had a colleague today, he put on one of his fancy hats. His grandpa had a collection of fedoras and he has them, and he looks so stylish when he puts them on, and he took a video call and I said, oh, you got ready for work today. You put on the fedora, and then when you're done with your day, you take off the fedora, you put on your sweats, you have some kind of delineation between work mode and now relaxation, kind of connected family mode.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. See, I do a Facebook Live. I put on a fancy scarf. I take off the fancy scarf, and then tells me to use my inside voice and to stop projecting at the camera all the time. What's one of your favorite self-care things that you do, or kind of stress reducers? What's one of your favorites?
Well, I love to do meditation. There are lots of good meditation techniques. I think tapping, even though it may seem a little bit out there, that can be really helpful. Yep.
I love this tapping.
Really helpful.
It really is incredible. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I have had plenty of panicky moments where it just really works. Works. That's all we do, right? Just this.
Yep. And there are lots of good YouTube videos online that you can take a look at. There's lots of great stress reduction techniques. There's lots of ways to do all sorts of things, and also to get your body moving. Get outside, even if it's just for a few minutes. Get some vitamin D, get some sunshine, move your body, because if you're depressed and you're moving your body, you're going to feel different. There's lots of great exercises that you can even do in place. There's some funny YouTube videos. There's one of a guy who puts oil on the floor and he just holds onto the desk and starts making it into a treadmill. So
I gotta look that up. That's great. My son might want to do it with the cat, but the cat kind of a little right. Yeah. No, I love that. I love tilting my face up at the sun right now. Just sort of closing my eyes and just feeling the heat of the sun. We're trying to take walks when we can. We haven't had the best weather. There's people that are stuck in apartments that I think that is tough, because they don't want to be in a crowded elevator to get downstairs, in and out. So maybe trying to do it during off hours so that they don't feel so panicky about being in a confined, New York City elevator. Absolutely. Right.
And they're online. There are lots of, Facebook and Instagram posts now where people are doing dance parties online. So you can put that on and just dance around the house with the family a little bit, even if it's 15, 20 minutes. It really can change the mood. There's in dialectical behavioral therapy, there is a skill called opposite action, and that can be really helpful when you're feeling really down, to do the opposite of what you want to get under the covers and you feel so down. To turn on some music and to dance around the house, even if you're not up to it, can really raise your mood.
I also love going upside down. So not everybody loves it. I had somebody say to me once, like, I hate the feeling of blood rushing into my head. And I'm like, we have a yoga trapeze in my office. But if I don't, and I'm traveling, sometimes I'll just do a headstand up against the wall. People don't have to be yogis to go upside down. You can even hang off the end of your bed, right? And as much as you can to kind of like do a little bit of a back bend. That's always helped me feel, I don't know if it's draining cortisol or doing something opposite. I'm not even sure why it works, but I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
get your blood rushing through your body. That's fantastic.
I love it so much.
Great. That's great. That's
So I
great.
mean, we covered so many tips. So to kind of summarize, let's in a nutshell, because I think these are fabulous for now and they're fabulous for later.
Mhm.
I think that we're at this peak stress level, and this is worldwide, that there are things that you can do, and certainly if these techniques are not enough, that should be a trigger to get in touch with a therapist.
Absolutely.
Trigger to get in touch with your primary care doctor, and everyone is available through telemedicine portals. Everybody's available just on the phone.
Yeah.
I have noticed for me, like I ran out to talk to my long guys just so I could have a human to human conversation that wasn't through the phone. Wasn't through the computer. I was 6 feet away. They looked at me like I was crazy. Like, what are you doing coming outside and talking to us? I'm like, you're far enough away. I just wanted to say hi and make sure that they were doing okay and kind of coping all right. So I feel like checking on neighbors, when we're being of service to other people, it kind of de-emphasizes our own stress level.
Yes, absolutely.
I've seen a lot of people get on the Nextdoor app to just say like, hey, I'm available. I can help. I can drop off groceries if you're elderly, or if somebody needs a roll of toilet paper, I have extra, kind of a thing.
There's even some, at least where we are in Volunteer, New York, there are lots of opportunities, and you can even get the kids involved to write letters to elderly people who are homebound. Yeah, I just registered with New York State to do free counseling for people for the state. So there's all sorts of things you can get involved in, and that's great. It's great for the kids. It's great for the parents, and it really helps with that kind of gratitude mechanism, which makes us all feel better, right?
I love that one. So I was going to bring that up, is that to even end on this note is the gratitude piece. So we do a lot of gratitude sharing on my team calls. I do it with my son, and I feel like the gratitude piece, right, to like reduce stress and to just get the mind focused on something to be grateful for and not focus on the thing to be afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
That certainly is one. I am incredibly grateful for you. You've been such a tremendous resource to the Fertility Answers community, to the infertility community, and now to hear that, of course, I'm not surprised that you're lending your services to your New York State community, to be available. You are a gem of all gems.
Yes, and I appreciate you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been fantastic.
Oh, you're so welcome. So you're going to be able to find this video on